Hello, everybody, and welcome to Comic Book Gold number 10 with the mighty Russ Leach, God of Thunder. Hey, Russ, how you doing, man?
Yeah, all right. A bit tired, but
yeah, me too. Me too. I wouldn't be awake if it wasn't for this nectar that's keeping me going.
I think I might be trying something that soon. I've been living on Jack Daniels, actually.
How do you drink your Jack Daniels?
Jack Daniels Tennessee, the honey.
The honey. Okay, yeah, that's nice stuff. Yeah. I drank Jack Daniels a couple of years ago, straight for the first time. I'd drunk it for years, and I thought I'm going to try it just to see what it tastes like. Never drunk it again.
No, I've got a bottle of the ordinary stuff in the cupboard, and I've had it once or twice. I go, no. The Tennessee honey. The
Tennessee honey is lovely. Nice. That's lovely stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I've been drinking paraffin and Coke for most of my college years. Thinking about whiskey.
I like a neat vodka. Actually, I quite like that. But the Tennessee honey is just that little bit softer on the palate.
So, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice. It's got me back onto. I ordered a bottle of Southern Comfort, which I haven't drank in years.
Yes.
I think it's drinking the Tennessee honey's done that to me.
Quite contrary to what the government tells us. I swear I had coronavirus last year in October, and I had quite a hard time of it. And for quite a while, I was sitting downstairs until 2:00 in the morning drinking to help. And then I'd go to bed, and actually I wouldn't even get into bed. I'd be laying on my knees outside of the bed so that I could breathe properly. So it was quite horrible.
That's just,
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I'm pretty sure.
But I had that period.
December.
Yeah.
I
a lot of people I know had it in a similar time. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time with Southern Comfort at the end of last year. I drank a couple of bottles of that.
I'm looking forward.
Did enjoy my time.
Yeah, an Amazon delivery should be coming on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. Although I do have to have some ID handy, as you do when Amazon deliver these days. If you get alcohol, you need to have ID. So,
which is bizarre. I mean, both you and I, it's just like at the door. Can I have some ID to check you're 18?
Pretty much, yeah. Somebody did ask me when I was out buying it outside a couple of weeks ago, but they were just a cheeky bugger, Right. Anyway, before we get started, have a look, see who we've got here. We have people. Yeah, we have Statistical Zero, Stato. Hey, Stato. Michael McCartney. Hey, Michael.
Hi, mate.
Who's this guy here? Caparticus. Hello, Caparticus.
That's somebody we know.
Time.
Yeah,
it is indeed. Yeah, we weren't that late. Blame it on the booze. Hey, Peep. Good seeing you, man. And okay.
Freezer temperature.
Freezer temperature vodka.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the one.
That's good.
Yeah, just stick it in there.
Yeah, I got a Polish student a couple of years ago. Gave everybody in the department, all the lecturers, bottles of vodka when he left. And I managed to get 2 bottles of vodka.
Oh, nice. the best vodka, well, not the best, but the strongest vodka I've had was some Russian vodka, which was brown. Because it was, and that was pretty serious.
But this was serious. This was like he would buy his vodka and bring it back into the country in suitcases. I had all the best students come to me.
Oh yeah, all the best.
Right, but enough of this vodka. What were they drinking in the Bronze Age? What was the big drink in the Bronze Age?
Oh, I don't know.
Bronze Age was like what years? What years would you say it spanned from?
Bronze Age was
early 70s through to the
early
mid 80s.
mid 80s. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
So
with its feet sort of with its toes planted in the late 60s, but the actual I think it took a little while. But yeah.
Actually, it's a weird kind of decade because it was, I call it a decade, but as you say, it spans 2 decades. But at the start of it seemed more counterculture in the 60s than the 60s did.
Yes, yeah.
But it's my favourite time in comics and interesting. And of course, I mentioned it because we're going to have quite a few Bronze Age comics to talk about here. So Schrenker, gorgeous visages.
With only 10, it's like there's so many favourites.
Yeah.
So nearly ran would be Hellboy, which is obviously far more recent.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And there's a few other bits and pieces that I would have liked to have put in the list, but I tried to keep it sort of reasonably diverse, but also a bit of a history as well, rather than just my 10 favorite, kind of like is to have some chronology to it. So. Yeah,
there's a definite thread that we can run through with this, which is cool. But yes, it's difficult because when I say to people, just comics that mean something to you or kind of pop culture things, you can make you half a dozen things, or you get like 100. A list of 100 things comes in my DM. I think keeping it to 10 or 12 because we will fly off at a tangent.
Of course. You always do.
I always do. But we're going to start with the Mighty World of Marvel.
Right. Okay. I have my copy here. And this is
cool. This is big you up. Let's have a look.
This is the first appearance of Daredevil.
Excellent.
And he was in the Mighty World of Marvel. This is obviously the reprint of the first appearance because it's for Marvel UK. But yeah, the old yellow costume. And I just look at the advert. Look at this advert. Look at that. Proper Brilliant. Thor. Proper. And it's just got gorgeous art in it. And it was always different. It was always something new. It just kept your interest. I didn't get it on a regular basis because back then, as you'll know, back then it was very difficult to get regular comics.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that this was the Mighty World of Marvel was my first comic, but by a long way, it would have been something that I picked up every now and then. But I just remember it. Also that whole Foom thing as well. It was like just the way that Stan Lee sort of got you involved. The little bits and pieces that he'd write in there, or get his editors to write in there. The letters pages in all of the books. It just made you feel like you were involved. And
exactly.
The Mighty World of Marvel did that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like you hear as the years go by and you get older, you hear people badmouthing Stan Lee. May not be perfect, but who is? But there would have been no Marvel.
No.
Or even everything that appealed to kids was pretty much Stan Lee having his finger on the pulse and knowing exactly what kids were going to connect with.
Absolutely, exactly. Yes. I was sorry. I was just looking at the screen and I saw that one eye of that Cyclops thing. That's a reprint of an Avengers story, and I've actually got the Avengers comic for that.
Yeah,
I just saw that. It's I know that Stan had his faults, and I know that Kirby is a genius and that he was probably the main creative force behind things like Fantastic Four, but you can't take away the way that Stan Lee made comics popular, the way he made readers feel in the editorial and the letters columns, and just his ambassadorship for the comics medium. You just can't take it away from him.
No, totally agree with that. And his writing style was just perfectly pitched to get kids. That was pitched at a level that was higher than kids were used to reading in comics as well.
Yeah.
And so that's how it kind of got the college kind of readers too, I think. But
that's the all ages term. And all ages means that you can literally give it to all ages. And don't ever write down to kids. You always write above their level and let them find their way, because they never want to read the stuff that they're at a level at. They always want to read something a little bit harder to read, or something that's got a little bit more mystery to it. They want a challenge, and that's what all ages comics are all about. And we've kind of left them behind.
Yeah, definitely.
We left them. Some of the comics here, I love. Like for instance, we've got Killing Joke later on. Something I'd love to have had in was Watchmen, but I'm sure lots of people would have that in their lists. Both fantastic books. Both, certainly Watchmen deconstructing the hero, and then of course from there on, those are the kind of books that I liked as a young man because I felt that I'd moved beyond all ages stuff, not realizing kind of what that was and how that had shaped me. And then then unfortunately the industry thought that was a really good idea and decided that all ages just didn't need to be in there anymore and everything was going to be a deconstruction. And what happened was, along with taking the books off of newsstands, you effectively lost the rest of your audience. There was no audience to come up behind the audience that were consuming Killing Joke, because those books were now disappearing. And then suddenly everybody wanted to write like that, and everything needed to be dark. And we can see that now in our cinema, in our television, in our comic books. Everything's got to be dark. Everything's got to be, there's no escapism anymore. Not in that way anyway. And so all ages, it became very important to me. And it only really twigged with me after I was working on Doctor Who. And I could see what I was doing and how I was replicating what I'd loved as a kid. And then I realised that's the thing. That's what needs to be back. We need to have more all ages books.
Totally. Yep. Couldn't agree more. Another thing was, when I was a kid, I didn't really want to watch kids and films and TV. I wanted to watch, I didn't mind having sidekicks who were kids, but I was interested in the heroes and the villains of the story, and projected myself onto them when I was playing in the playground. And this whole idea that everybody has to see themselves in everything is another thing that's just killing comics at the moment.
It is, because so many. There is an argument. I mean, I speak to a guy called J.D. Rosario from Unstoppable Comics, and he talks about seeing himself in comics and not necessarily seeing a lot of that when he was younger. However, so his argument is to see more of that, which is a valid argument. However, he also says his favorite hero was Captain America, and he didn't care that he wasn't Hispanic. It didn't even bother. It wasn't something that he cared about. And so it is important to get these things into comics. And if there has been an imbalance in the past, yes, do something about it. But that doesn't mean that you can't see yourself in a hero. For instance, Spider-Man, the reason he was so popular because he had a mask, and you could all imprint yourself onto Spider-Man, quite apart from the fact that he was a young guy with all the problems that young guys have. I don't understand. For instance, here's a one that'll get tongues wagging. Doctor Who, right? They have a female Doctor Who, and the argument was it's about time. What was there for young girls? And it's like, well, there's quite a lot for young girls actually. But so the idea was that the arguments that I heard were that, well, it can still be a role model to young boys. It was like, well, then why can't the male Doctor Who be a role model to young girls? Which Doctor Who had been for an awful long time. And it was important that young boys had a role model, which was something that one of the actors actually, so I think it was Peter, can't remember, the fifth Doctor.
Peter Davison,
that's it. It was something that he'd said, and of course he was pilloried immediately, misogynist, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
A load of old crap. But the whole point of it is that, especially in things like comics, you don't have to look like the hero that you're reading. You can still connect with those people. You can still connect with those characters, and you don't have to see an identical you in there. It's about the journey. It's about the character. It's about the things that happen. It's like this a quote. It's not the things that happen to you in life. It's how you deal with them. Those are the important aspects of life, and it's the same with characters. It's seeing their journey and seeing what happens to them, how they deal with it, and they can be those role models by doing the right thing, which is basically what all superheroes do. They all do the right thing until they're deconstructed and put into awful books that nobody wants to read, and then they're not doing the right thing anymore. No, so it is a thorny subject, but I do think it's far simpler dealt with than has been suggested by the larger companies. And certainly,
you're right.
I listen to so many people that say, "Well, we don't care. We don't care what color or sex or whatever these heroes are. We love them. So why change them? Why do that to them? You know?" So, yeah. Anyway, there was a lot of those kind of heroes in Mighty World of Marvel. Although it wasn't my first book, it was very prominent in my childhood.
Yeah, well, it was wasn't my first one, but the second one that I bought was Mighty World of Marvel, because I saw Spider-Man Comics Weekly come out.
Yeah,
I got a TV advert at the time, and I kind of went, I need that, and so I forced my mother to put it on a standing order. So I missed the first issue, but I was able to get that every week in my newsagent, give or take the odd week. Yeah. And then I saw adverts in that for Mighty World of Marvel, so I got that in a standing order. And I had a really good newsagent who would get American comics in, and he would let me and a couple of my mates look at them before he put them out on the counter. So he would keep them tied up, because we were in there practically every day, and he would let us have a look through them first, and we could take all the good ones, and leave all the Lois Lanes and that kind of stuff. But then we'd go back and buy the Lois Lanes and everything else. So we would buy because it was a time you could buy the superhero stuff, we'd buy the Western stuff, the war stuff, and once we did that, yes, we'd buy the romance stuff too, because it was still good comics.
No, definitely. I remember my Captain Britain comics and my 2000 AE comics coming in, and my address is written on the top where they dropped it through the door, because it used to come in with the papers. Back then, everything was through newspaper shops. So now we're going to Fantastic Four now. I feel like we're going to be talking about Captain Britain. We're going to be talking about Fantastic Four, and we're going to be talking about Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. These are all really part of the same comic, because the Fantastic Four stuff and the Steranko Nick Fury stuff were reprinted in the pages of Captain Britain. So Captain Britain was completely new, but the other stuff was being reprinted. And I think they were probably late 60s, early 70s. I'm not 100% sure. But it started off, I'm pretty sure it did start off with the end of a Kirby run, and then very quickly ran into John Buscema. And it went into the Doctor Doom run. Where
I think maybe there was John Romita jumped in at the
just
very start. But Joe Sinnott tied them all together.
Joe Sinnott. I've never seen anything so consistent. Just amazing stuff. It's difficult to show. See, oh, there you go. Look, I mean, that's not Fantastic Four, but look how consistent his inks are from two different styles. I mean, the guy was a master, and I don't think I truly appreciated Sinnott's input until I started inking myself, and then I realized just how important he was to the look of the Fantastic Four. But then on top of that, everything else he did, like the Avengers, and he also inked an awful lot of other work as well.
You had because Kirby was getting really chunky as well, and he was laying things down, pages down quickly at a rate of knots. Brilliant pages, but Sinnott would come along and he would just smooth off the edges and.
I was just thinking about it, but it's not in this book. But I mean, he effectively thinned the lines. He made it finer, and he gave it this. He just made everything look like a Sinnott comic, effectively, and you just didn't realize that at the time. But just beautiful work, and even me, shallow me, I actually read it all, especially at the time coming in weekly, because that was what comics used to be. It used to be this weekly episodic thing, and you desperately wanted to see what happened. I loved these things with a passion. Absolutely loved them. That's why I don't have them anymore. because they got read and read and read and read, and then my mum threw them out.
Well, that's that. I gave a lot of. I had a whole bunch of kind of comics I gave to my nephew, and a lot of these ones I was able to take them into the comic shop called Aka Books in Glasgow. Would allow you to bring in comics, and they would give you credit or money for them, but you get more on credit. So I would take in a lot of my stuff for years back, get credit, and then I could keep buying comics, throughout the 80s. I look back now and think I wish I'd actually just kept all my old comics, but then again, I would never have been able to read The Dark Knight and The Watchmen and everything else if I'd done that.
Why? I mean, I'm happy with the reprints, I have to say. I'd have loved to have kept them, but that's just a nostalgia thing. Although there is a huge amount of nostalgia in all of comics.
Yeah.
But
I've been buying the odd one every now and then because it's quite nice to get them on the yellowed paper.
Yeah.
Because even then the pulp paper, it killed the colours a little bit, and it just worked.
There's something special about it. I've like I say, I've got some Avengers up there. I've got a couple of the Titans, and the first 10 of Planet of the Apes cool. In paper, and they're just fantastic, just beautiful.
I've been looking at getting some old Planet of the Apes ones, buying them back again. Again, they were ones that when they were reprinted in the UK weekly, you were getting all black and white and a slightly larger format as well. They probably look better in the weekly reprints than they did in the original American.
Yeah, it's funny how they felt they needed to do that. It was obviously they felt it was a different market, and you got them in this A4 magazine format, and they were great. They just I would like to at some point be able to put out a book at that format. I'd quite like to put eventually put a hardback of the black and white art from the first 4 books of Only Death Can Save Us.
Yeah, that's Peeps pointing out the apes again. I'm obsessed. I managed to get Planet of the Apes in here every other week. But it was you that did it this week, Russ, not me.
I did it. I shoved it in there.
That was my Star Wars. People talk about Star Wars today. Apes was my Star Wars. Apes and the Kirk Star Trek. They were both.
I loved Star Trek as a kid. Yeah. Absolutely adored it. Loved Captain Kirk. What we were saying earlier about kids wanting to replicate their heroes, it's typical. What did I know what I played as a very small child? I can remember playing in the playground Star Wars. It was a stupid thing, but it was kids played it, and they wanted to replicate their heroes. And Star Wars is an all ages comic.
Yep. Exactly.
For all intents and purposes, that's exactly what an all-ages comic is.
Yeah. And it was intense for a few months when you were a kid as well. So for probably about 6 months, you were just intensely everything you could get to do with that one thing. You were absorbing before you moved on to the next thing. But you never left that thing behind. That was the thing. The thing, as I say. Another one was the water margin. We used to play the water margin.
Oh God, yes, the water margin.
Whack each other over the head with bamboo sticks in the playground, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely brilliant.
Good
and then monkey after that.
Monkey,
right?
Yeah. I'm going to bring up, before we move on, a couple of John Buscema covers. One showing his inks, and the other one which is an iconic Avengers cover.
That is.
Which has been homaged so many times since. Because when did you first see how to draw comics the Marvel way? Because I know there's a link there with you.
Yeah. I first saw that. It's on my desk, just to prove to everybody it sits on my desk.
Brilliant.
I first saw that. It must have been actually early 90s. I first saw that. I probably didn't even know it existed up till then. Or I may have just seen it in adverts, because they did advertise it in the comics, didn't they? So I think I might have seen it there. So I think I might have known about it, but not able to get my hands on a copy until the early 90s.
Oh, right. Okay. I got it for my Christmas, the first hardcover.
Oh, wow.
Which I've still got There's books to be somewhere right now, but it's I never ever took the slip cover off, so it's in a complete mess. I should have really taken it off and kept it somewhere nice and neat while I was like thumbing through it and drawing and inking and stuff.
Do you?
No, you don't. You don't. But I've gone through a couple other copies since then in paperback.
I've got a hardback. It's a big sort of magazine size format of John Buscema's work. It was from a I think it's called Big John or something like that. Big John Buscema. And
IDW one.
I think it is IDW. Yeah, and it was the guy that was writing it around a display that they had. But it was. Is that you?
Yeah, that's my wife trying to destroy the room that I'm in.
I didn't know if it was me. I've got that, and that's absolutely one of my favourite books. I just sit and flick through it, and it's obviously got that cover in it. It's just, the work is beautiful, absolutely stunning. The guy was, in my mind, he was the best comic book artist ever, and the reason for that is because he managed to combine draftsmanship with energy and an amazing ability to tell stories with sequential art. Obviously, there are fantastic, brilliant, genius level comic book artists, and he just happens to be my favorite. So I'm putting him above those artists. I do appreciate those other artists, but there is just something about his work that just says, and especially with the Joe Sinnott inks over the top, it kind of is. It feels like this perfect moment of comic book art and storytelling, and it just he just sits there at the top for me. But there are a few that are just sitting underneath him. I mean, Kirby is obviously up there. I love Jim Lee's work. I'm not so keen on it now because I feel like Jim Lee's kind of become the most Jim Lee-ish any Jim Lee can be. But there you go. I've actually got that comic in here.
We'll jump forward a wee bit. We'll jump forward in time.
But his work is where is that? It's in a bit of a state, but I do have that book here. So unfortunately, the cover is in two pieces.
Right.
Because again, it was one of those things that I read to death, and his work has changed over time. It's amazing to see, and actually funnily enough, bringing that book up with Jim Lee. I tried so hard to put so much detail in my work when I was younger, looking at Jim Lee's work, not realizing that the level of detail he has in there isn't as high as the eye thinks it is.
Yeah.
And much like what made John Buscema so good, I think, is his economy of line. And what makes any good comic artist, again, is an economy of line. Now, some people go, some artists go super economy, as it were, like with Hellboy.
Yeah,
that's like super simple as far as the number of lines involved, but there's still huge energy and drama in everything they do, everything he does. But if you look at Jim Lee's work and you actually analyze it, and then if you look at John Buscema's work and analyze that, you can see where lines are meant. So it's not just random cross-hatching. It's not detail for the sake of detail. I'm not saying that there aren't, a lot of detail in Jim Lee's work. There is, but it's all done with a purpose, and that's why it looks so damn good.
Yeah,
because everything has a purpose. So the lesson there for me was not to overdo my artwork, and also be myself and find my own style. I think I have various styles, but you've definitely got to be honest to yourself. And if you're honest to yourself and you make sure that the lines that you lay down mean something, as in that within the context of a panel or a story or a particular character, then your artwork will work. That's just my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I'm just going to quickly say hello to Eastland Burkholder. That's easy for me to say. Hello there, and our very own Lucifer Storm.
Hi, mate.
But yeah, so I remember years back trying to kind of draw in what would become the image style and trying to do all this over rendering and not doing a very good job of it. And then realizing, like much like yourself, it's like what I'm doing is not really what somebody like Jim Lee does. But yeah.
No, I mean, all you have to do is look at the beast there.
Yeah.
You can see that actually it's far simpler than your eye is telling you it is.
Definitely, yeah.
There's definition in the line work. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's got the anatomy there, and he's working in the cross hatching. And it isn't even full on cross hatching. There's like this particular way that he lays the lines down. And it was the same with John Buscema. He laid those lines down in such a particular way, whether he was inking it or whether somebody else was inking it. Obviously, with the draftsmen of the 70s, like Buscema and Remitter and all the other guys, but particularly Buscema and Kirby, they ended up doing almost layouts. They were pumping out books at a rate of knots, and letting the inker do. They were finishing. They were called finishers back then, weren't they?
Yeah.
Letting those guys finish it off, and somebody like Joe Sinnott, who was so incredibly talented as an artist anyway. That's why he ended up doing that run on the Fantastic Four, and it being so consistent and so good.
Yeah, there was a run in the 90s that Ron Friends did, which was almost like a pastiche, which I quite liked. It did a pretty good job. It was very similar. I can't remember if Joseph Sinnott was actually inking it or not, but it was consciously trying to do the Bronze Age sort of style for this was with Thor, not Fantastic Four.
Right, okay.
This was with Thor. They consciously were trying to do that. I remember them getting criticised at the time and thinking it's not a bad thing that they were trying to do.
Yeah, I've got a few of those up in the collection. I think I've got a few of those Thors. Yeah. Well, it was an odd time, wasn't it? That transition through the late 80s and early 90s into the whole image thing, and of course, Jim Lee exploded onto the scene and had a completely different way of rendering everything. And then suddenly that was it. Everybody wanted to be Jim Lee, including me at the time. But you can now go back and look at some of this stuff and go, it's not as good as you thought it was. It's not for me to criticize Jim Lee because he's obviously brilliant, but he's not perfect. None of us are. And it's amazing what your eye will fool you into seeing. So it's weird how styles change over time and how like the accepted style. And I think now you've got a point where people are looking for something. They're not looking for whatever the main two are putting out. There's a few artists in the main two that are putting out quality work. Yeah. But most of it is tap. Yeah. And I think people are starting to look at the indie market to find different things because the indie market is so vibrant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's funny you were talking about with John Buscema and Economy of Line, because I think one of my favourite inkers in John Buscema is actually his least favourite inker, and that was Alfredo Alcala.
That was, yes.
On the black and white Conan stuff.
On the Conan stuff.
I loved those comics as a kid.
So did I. That was the other thing I looked at. I was thinking about picking out because the Conan run was just superb, just incredible. And the way that Buscema made him look, he's so recognizable. Every time you can see Conan, but that ink work on there, completely different to everything else, really. And it was like a wood carving, wasn't it? It was just so much of it, and it's just stunning to behold. Yeah, beautiful.
And then he was doing the Planet of the Apes comics as well at the same time, and making them look more expensive than the actual movies were.
Yeah,
yes, brilliant. bringing on our man here, right?
Bring him on. So this is the masthead of that comic.
This was a big thing at the time. People realise how big it was. But in colour, British comic had 8 of the pages in colour, I think it was, or 16 of the pages in colour. And I've got a whole kind of slew of things here, but to the left, you can see the original ones. And it was very much a case of creating a superhero in the style of a Marvel character for the UK. With all the problems that brought, we not quite get in the UK and everything else, but quality stuff. I mean, it was. I think they were thinking about eventually releasing them as comics in America. It never happened as such, but I think that was the whole idea behind it.
Absolutely brilliant. So the first artist in it was Herb.
Herb Trimpe was the first, who was a good choice because he had that curvy look down.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I've not got any of my originals. I bought all the Panini reprints when they brought them out. They're quite nice books. But I wish I'd kept some of my originals.
Look at that. The ink is a bit looser.
Yeah.
But it's just the way comics were. Somebody showed. I was on Indie Vault earlier, and they had a games magazine on. And they had an image of Miles Morales swinging down through some kind of Christmas parade or something. And they just sort of dropped it on me. I said, "What do you think of that?" And I said, "Well, what are you talking about? You're talking about the art? Just what do you think?" I said, "Well, artistically, it's adequate. It's good, but it doesn't fill me with any kind of emotion. There was nothing exciting about it. It didn't make me want to pick it up. It didn't make me want to look beyond it. It was just a bland sort of expression. It was like they weren't flying through the air. It was just boring. And that you could technically look at what I just showed you and say, well, it's not drawn as well. Maybe the anatomy isn't as good.
Yeah.
But damn it. It looks exciting, just the outstretched hand, the whole sort of bright colours, and it's something that brings you in and makes you want to read more. And certainly those first comics, those Captain Britain comics, they made me just want more and more and more. And so that was the first comic I got on a regular basis. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Look at it. I just smile every time I open the pages. They make me smile. Just fabulous stuff. And then, of course, like I say, within Captain Britain, you had the reprints of Fantastic Four, and also I think they did the Avengers at some point. They might have done Doctor Strange. Some other.
Yeah, because it started off. It went to a kind of a more glossy look in black and white. And then I think they cut back on the British stuff and they started reprinting more American stuff in it. But,
what happened was it started off as full colour but paper, so much like the Mighty
like a newspaper,
Marvel. And then it went to with a glossy cover but all black and white inside, and then eventually it got merged into Spider-Man. And then it just disappeared.
That's how you knew the comic was going to disappear. When two comics merged together and one had second billing, it was just a matter of weeks before the characters from that comic would disappear.
That's right. So it was a clever marketing scheme because it got me. I ended up buying Spider-Man after that. Disappointing. Disappointing. And then of course it went on to there was a resurgence, wasn't there? With I can't remember his name. I think Claremont.
Alan Moore and Alan Davis did him. There's a Mighty World of Marvel when they brought it back. I've got that one there. They kind of like changed his whole kind of origin and stuff like that. But that happened after. I've got one here in Hulk Weekly. Captain Britain back as part of the Black Knight storyline. It was very much tied into being. They took the Black Knight and they turned him into a British character in a British comic and did him that way. And it's the best the Black Knight has ever been.
Oh, without doubt. That's in the reprint.
Most Americans have probably never even seen it.
That's in the reprint, isn't it?
It is,
in the third book. It's in the back of the third book. Yeah, really, really good. Lovely art, really nicely done. And yeah, totally underrated.
Yeah, and this is where I first was introduced to the other world, for the idea of this other place where like fairies and monsters come from. So that's kind of stuck with me, and that's why I used that. And also Dark, quite a different interpretation of it, but once I realised that was from mythology, I was kind of hooked onto it. Stuck with me.
Yeah.
But the characters changed. Chris Claremont took him for Excalibur with Alan Davis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not keen. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I didn't like the new costume. Still don't particularly. The original costume was far and away the better costume. I don't like thigh length boots on a man. Just it's like it's not a thing for me. And I never really warmed to it, to be honest. But that original run has definitely got a place in my heart.
There was a run they gave him his own monthly, Captain Britain monthly, for a while, and it ran for about 13 issues or so.
Right.
And there was some nice stories in that. It was mostly, again, Alan Davis kind of like just growing as an artist and knocking it out of the park. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. The Captain Britain that I like is the one that has Merlin, that has Stonehenge, science fiction versions of knights in shining armor and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of goofy and fun. And
yes, fun, goofy. Yes, exactly.
Would have made a great animated TV show,
wouldn't it? Wouldn't it though? Yes, it would have been brilliant to see that on the TV. I'd have been hooked.
Me too.
So you've gone on to the next thing, So
I can jump back if you want to show me.
No. We're good. So yes, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Steranko's work.
Yeah.
Wow. Just blew me away. Some of the stuff that he was doing. His anatomy is nowhere near that of John Buscema's.
Yep.
It just isn't. He makes some of it up by the looks of it.
Yep.
But
it's very influenced by Kirby, though, and that's probably why he gets away with it.
Yeah.
You see those influences there.
Well, wasn't Kirby the first one to start using photography?
He did
in his work,
like photo collages that he did, kind of Life magazine and stuff like that.
And then there was even some of that in some of the Fantastic Four when Buscema and Sinnott were doing it. But this was the next guy to do it after Kirby, I think, and he just had such a look. It was such a slick, gorgeous look, and his imagination as well. The stuff that he puts. I mean, look at that scape there. That's straight out of James Bond. Absolutely brilliant, and it's a time capsule. Just everything about it. It was like a science fiction James Bond. Nick Fury. It just brilliant stuff. Loved it.
Yeah, probably the main reason why I almost cried when I saw the Captain Marvel movies, because of what they did to Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury is the coolest character in Marvel Comics. He is hands down the coolest and the toughest character. In Marvel Comics. If anybody could take down Thor, or anybody, and they're talking about, you could the Hulk take down Thor. No, the answer to all these questions is Nick Fury could take down Thor.
Nick Fury survived a fight with Wolverine, for Christ's sake. There's not many non-superpowered people that could do that.
Not at all.
So it's just such a brilliant character, and he was so different to the Captain Britain character that I was reading in the same comic. It just blew me away. Absolutely brilliant.
Had you seen the Captain America issues that Steranko had done?
I have seen them. I don't have them, but I have seen them. Yeah.
Had you seen them at this time? Do you think?
I think I might have seen some pin-up art.
Right. Yeah. Because they were kind of harder to get a hold of. Yeah. I think they eventually turned up in an annual. I think it was a Captain America annual in the UK.
I'm gonna have to try and get that. That's the one where he's on the motorbike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get them. You can get them reprinted since, but that was the first time I saw them. It was a UK annual, and they just compiled the Captain America Steranko stories, and they were totally different. I was like, I loved them, but at the same time, I was slightly scared by them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Steranko had an imagination on him, a dark one as well.
Yeah.
He did that Today Earth Died. Actually, that stuck with me for a long time. Didn't quite understand it when I was younger, because he transformed into the alien to kind of stop it from happening, but then wasn't sure if it was all going to happen anyway. It was really dark, really weird. Very, very good stuff. Loved it.
He was harkening back to a lot of comic book artists. Well, I hadn't heard of at that time. People had still to discover, like Will Eisner, with a lot of his use of typography and playing around with splash pages, and of course Salvador Dali as well, as you can see in that cover.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah,
it's almost like with every page he was wanting to try something different. So a very short comic career, really, when you look at it. There's not a lot of work there, but there's more in it than most people's.
He certainly he pinned himself to the map with this stuff. Just it's very memorable. Just visually, it's very memorable. And like I say, I'm not a big one for reading. I like to just look at the pictures, but I remember reading all of this stuff and being completely enthralled by it.
Yeah, well, I'm depending on the comic. I'm both ways, but I'm a bit of a fan of Don McGregor, and he overwrote everything. I quite like that. But from the US of A to the UK.
Here we go. Judge Death. I've got my.
Let's have a look here. I think I have that.
Yes, Judge Death.
Yep.
Look at that with an absolutely gorgeous Bolland cover on there.
Yeah. Well, those were the original Titan kind of like.
The original Titan collection.
They're still the best. I've got them, and then
and look at the format as well.
Everything's the right size.
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So I've got that. I have got that Judge, the one you've got there on the right. I've got that one as well.
Yeah, me too.
But that one was multiple stories of Judge Dredd.
I got all of the Chronicles all the way up to, I think, the Apocalypse War.
Yeah.
And I got the Steve Dillon Werewolf one as well. I don't think I had many more after that. But ones I haven't included in here just because getting together all these images was the ABC Warriors. Could you mention those as well?
Yes. Well, that was all effectively 2000 AD.
Yeah.
So, but I picked out Judge Dredd, the Judge Death story, and the ABC Warriors, because those are the things that made the biggest impact on me. Brian Bolland's art is just stunning.
Yeah.
He runs up such a close second to John Buscema, I can't tell you. I don't think you see a lot of his influence in my work, simply because I just don't draw that way. But I just love looking at it. It's just utterly gorgeous. Utterly, he's got everything right. He's got figure drawing, energy, drama, storytelling. He has everything right. There's not many artists out there, however good they are, that have everything right, and he does. And then the ABC Warriors is a complete. It's just all over the place, isn't it? Kevin O'Neill, fantastic artist, but very odd.
Yeah. Did you read the Robusters first?
Thank you for reminding me of that name, Robusters. Yes, I did, because it was in Star-Lord magazine, wasn't it? Along with
Strontium Dog.
Dog, that's right. So those were the two big things to come out of Star-Lord magazine.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, whether you took a comic that was dying and you put it in another comic. So you had 2000 AD and Star-Lord, and then Star-Lord disappeared. But those two stories were so strong that one went on to become the ABC Warriors, and Strontium Dog just carried on.
Strontium Dog was just brilliant. Carlos Escada, just such a great artist. Again,
cheers, Kim.
Not my kind of art at all, but I just could not help but appreciate how good it was. And Kevin O'Neill as well. His art is unique, and again, not something that I could emulate. I think beautiful stuff. But there's is it Mike Mahone?
Mike McMahon, yeah,
Mahone. Yeah, I mean, he did.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's easy.
Yeah, he did a beautiful.
I'll pick you up here.
He did this spread, just gorgeous stuff.
Yep.
Total freedom with what they wanted to do in the books. Beautiful.
It's weird because reading Pat Mills talk about all that time, a lot of the artists that I loved and you loved seemingly weren't fan favourites at the time.
No.
I just can't believe that.
No,
it's weird.
It is really weird, but then there's no accounting for class, is there?
No, not at
all. So that whole. I mean, Judge, you've got that spread as well, haven't you?
I do.
Before Judges, just superb. Look at that. Look at it. Just gorgeous.
What I loved about this was it completely 100% took Judge Dredd into horror, which was my favourite genre as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Bolland's work on the House of Hammer magazine because he'd worked on that as well. So I'd seen his version of a adaptation of Vampire Circus. So I remember thinking at the time this guy was a horror artist. Of course he wasn't, but in my head he was. And he was a really good horror artist.
It's just look at the faces on those bodies at the bottom as well.
Yep.
Just amazing.
It's like
gorgeous shading,
grotesque eyes and mouth. It's funny that the wee chappie just below who is it? Mortis. Who's the guy? Famine.
Yeah.
His face looks very much like the face of the wee guy in The Killing Joke.
In The Killing Joke, yeah.
I just kind of noticed that there.
Yeah. Even down to the hat. It's a similar hat, isn't he? Because he's got like a Russian hat on or something.
Yep. I don't have that image, but everybody, if you do go for The Killing Joke, you'll find it. That'd be guys, isn't
it? When he goes through,
you got it there. You got it there. Let's go. There he is.
There he is.
With a wee hat on. It's like making a cameo appearance in the years earlier than Judge Dredd.
So cool. I mean, but Bolland's work just incredible. And I've noticed that there are a few people that draw a little bit like Bolland.
Yeah.
But just in the way that they render. So, for instance, the way that they render the judges' uniforms with the stripes of the way that the ink brush is used. I've noticed a lot of people doing that while trying to draw Judge Dredd, and some of it comes off and some of it doesn't, but none of it comes near Bolland. None of it.
No, he's one that I've never tried to replicate. For one thing, it's just the time to do it. It's like there's a lot more going on there than people give him credit for.
Yeah, a whole lot more going on, and it's like I don't know. I've been. I think I'm probably some kind of victim of my own production. So I've always wanted to do comics in a certain way because of the people that I like, and then I got into comics, and it was about doing them because I was being paid by the page. It was about doing them as quickly as possible.
Yep.
So my style kind of lent into that. So when you're doing something like this, if you're getting paid by the page, if somebody's paying you 500, 250, 500 quid for a page, you can quite happily lean into doing this.
Yep.
But if you're only getting paid £150 a page, it's a bit more difficult to lean into doing, putting this kind of depth into your work.
Yep.
When you're in a scenario where you're getting paid by the page and it's about getting it out the door.
Exactly.
So I've kind of got myself into a style that I'm comfortable with, but that doesn't have that kind of depth in the rendering.
Yeah.
But I'd like to have a go at doing something else, if you know what I mean. I'd like to try some new rendering techniques and take my style in a different direction. But that's going to have to happen after I finish the books for Only Death Can Save Us, because obviously I want it to all look, there to be a consistency to the whole thing. And then I'll move on and do something else, I think. Or I've got a project that I can't say anything about that I'll be working on in January before I get to the second book. And maybe I'll give it a go then. Maybe I'll do something slightly different then.
Yeah,
so
I understand that, because my style for drawing comics is really just me modifying my drawing style.
Yeah.
And so it was finding the style, doing them. And I think I've now kind of got a style just through finding it. But I want to try something different, especially since I've been doing the Chaplin stuff for Charlie. So it's still my
beautiful
style.
That's gorgeous, by the way. That's really nice.
Yeah, I'll need to get a few more pages done though. I've only got, but it's quite quick to do once I can go down and get working at it. But again, it's my drawing style. It's just modifying it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to go full on kind of like I don't know, even Bernie Wrightson or stuff. I want to try something really complex.
Yes.
For my next project.
I know exactly what you mean. In some ways, I feel like I've got my style to the point that it's at, and I'm kind of getting this out of my system. I absolutely have to do what I'm doing on Only Death Can Save Us, and I have to make it. I have to make it the way it looks. Get it out the door, entertain people. Have that as a project that I'm proud of, and then go right. Where can I go next? What can I do next with my style? How can I go in a different direction? And I think I'm probably looking at a higher render level. That's what I want to do. I want to do something different in that direction, doing something different with the inks, putting more into each texture. But it's, not for these books that I'm doing at the moment, because they have a certain feel and they need to be consistent.
Yeah, and it looks so good as well. We'll get to the end of this. We'll give everybody, I think most of the people watching, if I've seen both of our books ad nauseum, but we'll bore them with them at the end of this. Talking about the Killing Joke as a couple of images.
Just original colours. Yeah.
I think that's the one I went for, because you had different choices for the logo, and I think I went for the green one. I think that's the one I've got.
I've got mine's 1988.
Yeah, that'll be it.
So, because it came out it didn't come out as floppies, is it? This isn't.
No, it's just a one-off.
This is just a one-off. So this is an original. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. I mean, just look at it.
Oh, there he is. He's up at the top. That wee chap. He is on this page.
There he is. He's up there.
He's everywhere.
Bloody everywhere.
But this was.
There he is. It's almost the same bloke.
That's pretty much, isn't it? I think it was a wee in-joke or something.
But just, I mean, again, anatomy, storytelling with anatomy, just stunning stuff. I mean, that scene in the bar where they're eating prawns.
Yeah.
And yet, once again, something that you notice is just how clean his work is. So as much as it's not like the stuff I was talking about with Sinner earlier, and we were talking about Jim Lee and Buscema and having very, very definite lines, economy of line, and it's probably hard to see with something as gorgeous and as textured as this. But actually, if you look at this, you'll see a definition. You'll see an absolute. He knew what he was doing with every line and how it worked. So for instance, here, zoom in on this if we can. Yeah. This image here, Jim Gordon. It's hard to see on this camera, but the way the shading is on his pectoral muscles, and then the slight rolls of skin underneath, and you can see he's not just like hacked at it. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, totally.
There's just so much work in this. It's so beautiful.
He has a tutorial that's a few years old now, showing how he inks digitally, or used to ink digitally. I bet he doesn't anymore. but it shows you how he used to do it.
Apparently, his eyes are going.
Are they?
Terrible shame. Terrible shame.
It's using CS2 or something. And it's so complex. It's using the pen tool as well, which
I saw him do it, and it's big as well.
Yeah,
he does it really big.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I'm not even going to attempt to ink that way. Thank you very much. It was so complex and technical, and more power to him. It was incredible to watch. But yeah, because that's the last page, his original inks.
Have you got that?
No, I wish.
Oh, I was about to say,
yeah,
yours?
I wish. No, I just found it on the. I always try and look for original artwork when I'm looking for images and get it on the original
Look at
board.
that! Look at that Batman at the top right. Just nobody had drawn him like that before.
No,
sorry, nobody drew Batman the way that Bolland drew Batman. And I'm a big Neil Adams fan, and it's just nobody drew him like that. Yep. Just something special about this book. Just superb.
Yep. A couple folk before you have chosen it, and so I've got a kind of love-hate relationship with it. I think it looks amazing. I like the original colours, John Higgins colours, better than the remaster stuff. I think it looks amazing. I've always had issues with the story, and to this day, I still have issues with the story, and I have issues with portrayal of Batman and all kinds of things. But it's a great book. You can still say something's a great book and have problems with it. And from the first reading to the last reading I had of it, just not that long ago, a couple of months ago actually, I've still got problems with this book. But that's a whole show. We should maybe do that. Get everybody that picked together for a round table one day. And do a comic book round table and the Killing Joke. That'd be interesting. We could dissect it. But because again, that's one of these ones that's got a legacy to it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it is more about the visuals for me. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm very much embedded in the visuals.
Yeah, it's an amazing book.
And I can forgive all kinds of horrors in the writing if the visuals are good. I do have a line though that can't be crossed, and most of the stuff that's being printed at the moment in the mainstream is on the other side of that line.
Yeah,
I will say. I mean, did you see that thing today, Captain Marvel?
So is that the
pig face?
Yeah, that was it. That was interpretation. That was my impersonation of it. Yeah.
Good Lord. How does somebody got paid to do it? Maybe somebody didn't get paid to do it. I think
it's a case of they didn't get paid. When you look at the kind of page rates that they're flying about these days.
And you think, but you see, the thing is even on low page rates, they wouldn't give me a job because I'm not in the clique. I'm not in the right place.
Yeah.
And it's a crying shame.
You would also make Captain Marvel look like a woman.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's part of the problem. And it was heartbreaking. What sort of 5 years ago when I'm thinking, okay, I've got this Doctor Who gig, I'm doing this stuff for Draw the Marvel Way and all the rest of it. I'm gonna kick on from here. I'm going to be able to get into to the bigger players, and then just as things sort of opened up, as the world opened up to me, as I saw the changes happening, eventually I got to a point, which is part of why I started my own book, was that it was like, well, I don't want to work for them.
Yeah,
I want to work for Marvel that gave me Captain Britain.
Yeah,
and I know that Marvel isn't there anymore, so. As heartbreaking as it was to see some of the characters being destroyed in the way they were doing it, I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm not sure that I care anymore.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, the time is for me to go and do my own thing.
Yeah.
It's not to say, if anybody out there who's watching this from Marvel, you want to offer me a book, I'll bloody do it. Somebody says to me, would you like to draw Captain America? Bloody drop of a hat. Mm-hmm. Of course you would, but I'm that's not what I'm craving anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gone beyond that. They're not the same characters that they were, even 10 years ago. So I've got over the sadness, and now it's about creating my own characters.
Yeah,
making our own stories.
You've got that whole idea. You'd have loved to have a wee crack at some of them. But I don't think I even think about characters like that now. I would write them, except for maybe there's a world's finest story in my head that I could possibly do. I think I could write a really good Superman story about Batman.
Again, I don't give a shit about writing. I just draw the pages, give them to me, and I'm hungry.
Well, there you go. If anybody's looking in, I'll write it. Russ will draw it. It'll sell by the bucket load. You wouldn't believe it. It'll be like old school stuff.
Old school. Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. It's not going to happen though.
No.
Talk about old school.
Right. Here's the one. I think I have 3 that have lasted from my collection.
I think I've got. Hang on, pick you up here.
That's that one.
Yeah, last one I don't have. That one. That's one of the ones I missed out on. Yeah, I think because I got the first 7 or 8, I think it was, and then I jumped a few, and then it was the last couple with the Hulk that I got.
Yeah, I didn't actually get hold of the Eternals until it must have been early 90s, and I picked this up in a second hand. I picked it up in a long box, along with a couple of others, but I couldn't get any more than that. But I managed to get a reprint, and then recently I got this one. There you go, this one.
I got that one. Yep.
Just so that I could flick through it and enjoy it.
They are bringing out an omnibus because of the movie, I think.
Right.
And I noticed a listing for like an oversized one or something as well. So.
And again, it's just like it's Kirby doing his thing. It's crazy. It's bonkers.
It's totally bonkers.
It's bonkers. It's just lovely.
He was reading the Chariots of the Gods at the time. I think that all that stuff about the Aztecs and whatever, and this was his version of that, and it's nuts. I was really looking forward to the Eternals movie until I saw the cast. And my heart sank. And,
don't bother.
And it's like, and then I saw Disney were putting his name up as a Disney kind of like icon or legend. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's just Jack Kirby. He's a legend.
Yeah. He's a legend of his own. Don't need to.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel so conflicted. I just don't really want to go and see that movie.
No, the end game was aptly named.
Yeah, that's it.
I think it's all over.
Yep.
I think it's all over.
My brother bought me the first issue of this when it first came out. The first comic shop, not the first, but the first one I started going to, it opened up in Glasgow. And he knew the guy that ran it. He went to university with him. And he just said, okay, my wee brother's into comics, what should I buy him? He says, well, this has just come out of Jack Kirby. I'd get this. So I got the first issue of the Eternals and then discovered that there was such a thing as a comic shop at the same time. It was like, best day ever.
No, just look at that art.
It's amazing.
It's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Yeah. The placement of the blacks as well. The way it just sings in black and white.
And this was Kirby going back to Marvel. He still did covers for the Fantastic Four, but he never drew it again. He didn't want to draw any of the characters he was associated with. And he was treated quite badly, I think, at Marvel.
He was treated badly at Marvel, yeah.
He did a great run in Captain America, which is just as bonkers. It's like, I love it, because if you read this stuff when you're just a kid, all the bonker stuff seems really imaginative and just cool. As an adult, it still does if you read it when you were a kid. But I can understand why anybody looking at it would go, what kind of stuff was this guy taking at the time?
Yeah.
And the answer was nothing.
No, it all came out of here. It's not quite as easy to take in as an adult, but
no.
I'm sort of biased towards the art and just love, looking at what Kirby did. He was a one of a kind, no doubt about that.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah, much underrated. The Eternals.
Much. Yeah. Well, I can't remember that in the Fantastic Four run where the Stranger turned up, or what's the name of that character? There he is.
Oh, the guy with the beard.
Overmind. The Overmind. And the Overmind was the culmination of all the minds of one race, and the Stranger was that of another. And I can't work out. I can't remember if they actually said that one of the races was the Eternals.
Oh, that's a good catch if they did, because I've never caught that.
Let's say to destroy and Eternal. They were their mastery. Yeah, from the world of brutal contrasts, from this home of those who dub themselves the Eternals.
Oh, good catch. Did not know that.
Yeah, there you go. And they went. So they were the Overmind.
Brilliant.
Wow. So there you go. Ooh. Oh. Gives you this little shiver there.
I'm now going to have to go in. So what run was that? What was that? One of the essentials you were looking at?
Yeah, I've got the Essentials, Fantastic Four Essentials Volume 6, and they call them the Eternals. Now, whether they've misnamed them and it doesn't work, I don't know. But
doesn't matter. It's there. It's in print.
It's in print. Yeah. Because I'm sure that's where I first saw the name, the Eternals. So when I saw that in the long box, I was like, "Oh wow, I've got to have that." So yeah.
No, well, I was just kind of like, because I was a big Kirby fan. I've always been Kirby. He's kind of like my John Buscema. The way John Buscema is to you. I kind of got Kirby straight away, and a lot of people didn't.
No, I didn't.
But I just started drawing everybody with square fingers. I was 8 years old, and I was just drawing people with square fingers.
Fair enough. That's a good start. I didn't understand Kirby at all, and then I did. I'm trying to remember what happened to me. I don't quite know what occurred, but suddenly it was like, I understand. And then do you know what? It may have even been after Hellboy.
Right.
And Mike Mignola's work, and I suddenly I was absolutely drawn to Mignola's work. I loved his work on the Batman. It was it the one that he did was
Gotham by Gaslight.
Gotham by Gaslight. That's right. It's superb stuff. Absolutely stunning work, and Hellboy as well. And I looked at it all and thought, well, that doesn't look like John Buscema. It doesn't look like Jim Lee. But I love it. What's going on here? And then I went and looked at Kirby again, and it was like, oh my God, what have I been missing? And then going back through the old Fantastic Four stuff, and you're like, oh God, this is so damn good. Yeah. The light got turned on, and from that point, I had a slow burn until I could actually use that in my own career. And appreciate and find my own style. Yeah, it was like it was from those moments where I flipped from thinking I don't understand this at all to being, oh my God, this guy's a genius. That I appreciated that you have to find your own style, and you just have to bring the energy and the dynamics to your style, and it doesn't matter what you look like. It's about the content. It's about the bringing that energy out so that people want to read it, and that's the most important thing. So even now, when I talk about playing with my style, it would be like the infill. It wouldn't be the way that I draw things. Yeah. So although obviously everything is work in progress, as we all know as artists. It's
definitely exactly
constantly under review.
But no, Kirby. I think Kirby and Steve Ditko. I had more trouble getting my head around Steve Ditko than I did with Kirby.
Right.
I think it was Doctor Strange that kind of got me to get my head around Ditko, because I preferred Romita's Spider-Man to Ditko's Spider-Man.
So did I.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange, with all the kind of, it was more the backgrounds and the weird things he was doing again. It was almost Durango-like. I think that kind of like got me into Steve Ditko, and then I started used to get the Tales of Suspense sort of comics and Unexpected. They were reprints of the old American ones, and they had lots of Ditko horror stories and ghost stories in them. And I kind of go, now I'm going to get, because sometimes it takes you got to get an in for an artist, and then you start finding out exactly why they're so.
So I've got an old 1967 Strange Tales with Doctor Strange in it, and in the back another reprint of Nick Fury.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up knowing that Nick Fury was a reprint, because it had been hanging around for quite some time before it got into the pages of Captain Britain.
They didn't give up on Nick Fury, because Sergeant Fury and then with the spy craze, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., they weren't giving up with that guy. It was almost like he was an alter ego for both Kirby and Stan Lee,
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I really loved Remitter's Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too.
I just can't get on with Remitter Jr., I'm afraid. I don't like his anatomy work. It makes me balk every time. And you say, well, you like Jack Kirby. It's like, it's not quite the same thing. I don't know why, but there's something I just can't get on with it.
I know what you mean. I don't mind. There was a run he did on the X-Men. I think it was Al Green that was inking him most of the time, and it was more of a, which I don't mind. Yeah, I think he was okay there.
He did a run on Daredevil, and I enjoyed that.
That was good as well.
And
again, it been Al Green working it.
And it fitted it as well, because he had the devil in it and what have you, and it kind of just fitted. And there's also a book that I've got, which is Punisher, Ghost Rider. Punisher, Ghost Rider, and
who's the other one?
Who's the other one?
Is it the guy with the heart? I'm trying to remember now.
No, Punisher, Ghost Rider.
I don't like Googling on this show. I like to just try and work it out.
I've got the book up there.
I can kind of see the cover, but it wasn't one of the main ones, wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't it Wolverine? They did one with Wolverine.
It was Wolverine. That's it. It was Wolverine. Yeah, that's right. Wolverine. Well done. So it's the three of them.
Other guy with a hat.
No. Wolverine. It was Wolverine, yeah. And the three of them, and that was done by Romita Jr. And again, I bought that. It's a great book, but I don't know. I just love the way his dad drew. So
yeah, me too. And again, he had working with somebody like Joe Sinnott on the inks, but he didn't. He inked in the same style anyway. And he did some really nice black and white stuff for Marvel too. Maybe he did one about a Satana one. It was kind of like a horror story. Just a few pages, just dead nice. And of course, introduced the world to the definitive Mary Jane Watson.
Yes, yeah.
That's what she should be like. And
that's exactly what she should be like. Yes, because
I don't know
that's
why
the girl we fell in love with.
Exactly. That's it. Mary Jane Watson. Okay, cool. So Jack Kirby, The Eternals, When Gods Walk the Earth. One more thing about Jack Kirby is he actually was there in World War II, and he actually killed people in war. But his stories, when you realise that, you can see that in the stories. His stories are so positive and optimistic, and they're full of dynamic characters, and he covers the realism with this veneer of fantasy to make it palatable for kids and everybody else, in a way that a lot of modern writers just couldn't even fathom. Swamp Thing. Right.
Again, I was aware of this comic early on. I don't know when Swamp Thing came out originally.
Well, it would have been the early 70s. I'm trying to think of the date. Somebody Google it for us. Because it was in House of Secrets. It was a story in House of Secrets. Right. And that then was spun off into his own comic.
So that original...
Because that's the first issue there with the purple kind of masthead. Yeah.
And that was drawn by...
That's Bernie Wrightson.
Bernie Wrightson, that's it. So I was aware of it. And then in the 90s, when I was buying a lot of books, I ended up buying all 11 books of this. I got the first one, and I thought, oh, that's quite good. I got the second one, and
Are they the black and white ones or the colour ones?
Yeah, black and white.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I got a couple of those.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they were good.
I don't know if it's 11 volumes or 12 volumes, but I got them all. I know I bought the whole lot, and I just couldn't stop reading them. And for someone who's like more into the art and the reading, I could not stop reading them. Just real deep stuff and beautiful. God, beautiful artwork. It was just one of those things that turned me on to comics of another genre. So I didn't have to just, read superhero comics or sci-fi comics, because this had a lot of horror in it. And it did it really, really well. But it was also transcendental as well.
Yeah, I'm getting pulled up by people circles. It wasn't Al Green, it was Dan Green.
Dan Green.
I've been listening to a lot of funky music recently. What can I say?
Funky. Look at, there you go. There's a nice page. Look at that.
Yeah.
Superb stuff. And the books, all the different artists, the books were full of superb art.
I think again, this is people say an influence on your work. One I don't always mention, but I probably should, is Steve Bissett and John Totleben. Are a huge influence on some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. But it might not be obvious to people to look at it, because I don't try to replicate what they're doing. I just have their images implanted in the back of my head, so that I'm trying to do stuff that will hopefully evoke the same feelings that they were doing with the work that they created.
I think you can see it, mate. I think you can.
Oh, cheers, yeah. But it's so in my head, I'm seeing them, although I'm not replicating any kind of the stylistic tics. And if I do, it's unconsciously. I picked 4 covers I picked here were like, because it's one thing. Started off horror comic, then they tried to turn it into a superhero comic. He disappeared, turned up the Challengers of the Unknown. You had Keith Giffen was working on that when he was in there, and other artists. Then they came back in the Saga of the Swamp Thing, and you had Tom Yeats, who again is a great artist, great illustrator. And then later on, when Alan Moore came on, you got Steve Bissett and John Totleben. It was like all really good art. And then Rick Veitch as well. He took over and he was writing it too. All really good artists.
Just superb stuff, and the story just wound its way. Like I say, there's transcendental stuff in there. Ooh. I think Wullie may have dropped out. Are you there? Your mic is off. Oh, I thought you dropped out.
It just decided to do that. It does it sometimes. I'm still
here.
Last time I did that, I went away completely. You see my face here. I went, "Oh no, I'm going. What's happening?" And then, no, it's okay.
He told me earlier that I had to sing a song if he left. So you've lucked out there, everybody.
Yeah. Stato knows the feeling. He had to do it twice.
But yeah, it was just it was really deep, and that's, I just could not put it down. Fantastic stuff. I think that's the best. I think that's the best thing Alan Moore ever did, personally.
Yeah, me too. I think I liked Marvel Man, but when you look back at Marvel Man, that was the first of the deconstructions.
Yeah,
it did a lot of damage. But I think his best stories overall are Swamp Thing, because he's still stuck to creating 21, 22-page stories that you could tell that were just like straightforward stories.
Yeah.
And there was a discipline there that he lost later on.
Yes, yeah, but he told them, but at the same time kept that thread running for the whole thing, which is really clever.
Yeah,
I'm always impressed by that, and just brilliant, lovely work.
I just put a couple of Bernie Wrightson images up there as well, because it's just everything about Swamp Thing harkened back to 1950s, 1940s horror.
Yeah.
And also kind of like Hammer horror and that kind of stuff as well. But you can see the beginnings of what he was going to do with his Frankenstein when he did his book, where he did all these amazing illustrations. You can see even then he was like playing it, trying to get as much in there as he could on a monthly kind of like schedule.
And you look at that and it just makes you want to treble your brush count. Just like make more strokes. Make more strokes.
I know, it does, doesn't it?
It's beautiful.
But yeah, some inspiration. And it was all done on board with nib pens and brushes, all old school. But that's us then. That's the pick. Was there anything that we didn't have there that has been jumping into your head as we've been talking, other than Planet of the Apes?
No. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original black and white run with Eastman and Laird, yeah.
And the like the big gaudy horrible color books as well.
Oh right.
Again, not my kind of thing whatsoever, but I found them totally enticing. Again, one of those things where you kind of look past the art and see it as a whole. And it worked. It was another one of those steps on the journey to make me appreciate lots of different, a big breadth of artwork and different styles and different kinds of genres as well. If I look back as well, I mean, when I was small, the first comic book I was ever given was a copy of DC's Stalker. And I remember copying the hell out of that. I must have only been about 4 or 5. Don't know why my mum was giving me that, but comics for kids. Here you go.
Yeah,
have this.
That's it. Can you remember? Was it a Joe Kubert cover? Because he did.
No, it was. Who was it? It was somebody very famous, actually, and I can never remember who it is because somebody said, "Oh,
that's a comic I never managed to get a hold of." But I saw it in the ads, in the house ads, and I was like, really want to get a hold of that comic.
Yeah, it might be in my Is it in useful items? I've got a cover of Captain Britain there. So that was my first comic. That was the first one I was given. But I remember getting an Iron Fist comic. But I also remember getting the old Whizzer and Chips and Dandy and that kind of stuff. That was often given to me, and I was always disappointed when I got them. But bizarre. I'm not going to say they weren't any good because I enjoyed reading them. I remember having them and really enjoying them. But I always wanted like action or science fiction or, that was where my heart was.
When you were in the UK, there was just so much choice with comics every week as well.
At that moment in time, there was such a huge amount,
and even they're reprinting quite a lot of the girls' romance comics from Misty. They had probably better stories than a lot of the boys' comics and artwork as well. I remember having Warlord was one I would get every week.
Warlord. And they were in those small formats as well, those like A5 formats.
Well, the Commando ones, you still get those.
Commando, God, yes.
Ian Kennedy, the artist, Scottish artist, did the covers for them. And he did Dan Dare when they brought him back in the Ego in the 90s. He's in his 90s now. He still does the covers for them. He's still working today.
Wow.
But he was one of the few artists that DC Thompson would let sign his work. Because that's what artists meant to them back then.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
You want to sign your work?
Just do me a favour.
Take the pennies and go away. No, I'm looking myself. But that's a comic I never got. I don't think I've ever read it unless... it could have been a Ditko one.
Yes, it might have been Ditko.
Could have been a Ditko one. Yeah, I don't think I've ever read it. I must have it because I've got the complete Ditko, the DC stuff. I've got all these stuff, so I've just never got around to digging out and reading it. I'm sure it must.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is because I think somebody said, "Oh, I can see a little bit of that in yours," and I'm like, not sure about that. But yeah, I remember copying the hell out of that when I was a kid, and loving it. And then, like I say, I got some Iron Fist comics, probably a Spider-Man somewhere as well. And then it turned into, when I first got my hands on Captain Britain, that was my first comic that I paid for myself, got it on a regular basis. And then I started getting 2000 AD. So, that it's those two mixes. It's a bizarre, transatlantic mix. Because obviously all the art and the way the stories were approached in the Marvel comics were of a certain way, but 2000 AD was so subversive. I mean, to be handed out to a 10 or 11-year-old at the time.
Yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't get away with that now. So.
No, I think I mentioned in a previous stream with somebody, I probably did. They were both rocking the gloves tonight. What's that like?
Yeah.
But just noticed that. Put our hands down. Yeah, I think I remember reading Action.
Yeah.
On the train on a Saturday morning, with my mother, going into Glasgow with her into town to do the shopping, and I was surrounded by football kind of fans, and it was standing room only, and I'm reading Action, and it's this subversive kids rule okay story in it, and I'm looking around, and you had stickers on the train with the anti-Nazi League and all this kind of stuff in the 70s, and it was like you look around and all this stuff as a kid, I'm like, there's something off. You don't know what it is, and then as you're older, you look back and you go, well, that was a pretty torrid time, there was lots happening, lots of unrest and so on, and
there was,
and then this comic came along for like for school kids that had all that stuff in it.
Amazing. We were allowed to read them.
Yeah, and then 2000 AD took that and ran with it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, something like Judge Dredd he was a Nazi. He was. He's a fascist. And yet you're cheering for him every time. Kill the muties.
They got away with that because I remember the newspapers at the time they were all disturbed because Dan Dare had been changed and was no longer an upright British pilot. It was like, and I'm reading this Dan Dare that Massimo Bellardinelli was drawn, and it had aliens with flesh-eating axes. And I'm like, I don't want your old Dan Dare, thank you very much.
No, I'll have a new one.
I'm having this one. This is my Dan Dare. I'm keeping him. But good times, man. But thanks very much. So we've had a good show tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. We could probably do this again at a future date, and do an entirely different slew of comics quite easily. And creators. I'm going to share if I can find my browser here. I'm going to stop sharing one thing, start sharing another. I'm a wizard with this StreamYards, or StreamYards even, whatever it's called. It's getting better and better with it every day. There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Because we've been talking.
Yeah, it's I've got another couple of backers, which is great. We got through the $10,000 mark, so I'm really pleased with that. For a first campaign, I'm chuffed. And I'll be leaving it up in demand. Certainly, it's in demand until the end of January, because that's when the book will be delivered. But I would say I'll probably leave it up for at least a couple of months after that, because I want to see if I get any reviews, word of mouth, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And see what I can get. The stretch goals are going to be honoured right up until the time I go to the first proof, which should be just before Christmas.
Brilliant.
So if I can do that, it also gives me time to send off for the patch, which is the next stretch goal, the 6 a.m. Embroidered patch, which I've got set up to go. Should I hit that?
Well, everything we've been talking about tonight for clarity and consistency and just sheer artistry in comics is totally evident in this. It's just looks amazing. When I saw this campaign, I'm like, I've got to have this book. This is I haven't even seen it's been pages added since the last time I looked at it.
I've got. You can have a quick look at what I'm doing here.
Oh, cool! Let's do that.
So that's just that's the page I'm about to colour. So you can see the inks and what we were talking about, the fact that I don't put a huge amount of rendering in. I kind of let the lines do the job. And then this is the centre spread, which is now coloured up.
Brilliant.
So as you can see, it's got that sort of bright colours, retro feel to it.
Yeah, love that. It's still the best way to colour a comic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do like lots of different styles of colouring. I'm doing it this way. This is the way that I colour. I'm looking forward to the next project I'm working in January. That somebody else that everyone knows will be colouring it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what somebody else does with my line work. But for me, for this particular book, it was there to do a particular job. It was there to scratch my itch. So I'm scratching this itch, and I'll be doing that for the next 3 books. And then, like I say, if I can get enough interest, I'll make a hardback with the black and white art in there and make it a bit oversized. I'd like to do that, but obviously it's down to interest. So
excellent.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. I always like to go right to the bottom because you see people don't do that. I'll be honest, I tend not to do that in the show as well. But I think everybody that's in that chat tonight has seen this and probably backed it. If anybody's got a few newbies in here tonight, and there's a few people watching that haven't in the chat.
Anybody on the replay?
Anybody in the replay? Seriously, give us a look. The link is down below in the description, and give Russ a follow as well. Yeah,
that would be cool if I could get people to follow me on YouTube. I'll have some new content up soon when I get some sleep.
Perfect. Right. I'm going to show myself quickly now.
Yeah, do it. And I have bought this book, not this one.
Well,
I haven't bought this one yet.
You probably get this one. I'll give this one a mention because I'm working on it. Not much interest in this, as you can see. It's only got 26 grand. Well, I've not got the thing set to show you.
It's the 438 backers that interest me. That's fantastic.
That's what you're looking at. That's what I look at. It's the backers more than the money. It's what you're looking at. And if you can get people that are returning from campaign to campaign.
Exactly. I mean,
that's what you're looking to build in.
I'm chuffed that I got 185 backers. Did you draw that?
No. This is Mickey. Somebody Mickey. Did you give his name? It's one of these guys that has a name,
right?
Like an artist name. Not because I think he's just called Mickey or Mickey D or something.
It's lovely work.
Yes, I might just be thinking of Sonny D there.
Sonny D, the greatest orange drink.
But yeah, it's got Donald DeLay and Vinny Tartamella and me. So again, that's why I'm showing this, because I've got a one shot in it with Stan Laurel and Charlie Chaplin that Charlie's London has written. And
gorgeous work, mate.
Working on that today. I was laying out pages on that today, so I'm getting back into doing that again. Try and get as many pages done as I can over the next month. But yeah, give that a look. It's a cracking campaign. Definitely give this one a look. So this is I'm still in my first 30 days of the campaign. I will be extending, but I'm going to add a wee bonus tier before we get to the 30 days, just before we go into the next 30 days. That's Ailsa Dark, Werewolves and Vampires. Again, Bronze Age inspired. It's all the kind of stuff I'm thinking about in the back of my head. As eerie comics, Vampirella, Marvel's horror comics at the time, Ghost Rider, Werewolf by Night, all that kind of stuff. It's the only comic where you're going to get a werewolf with a tash and a monocle. And these are some pages from the first two issues. When the first campaign went really well, got fully funded. Everybody's got their copies, good feedback. This campaign lets you get all 3 issues, so that's 124 pages for this one complete story. So that's, as it says here, all 3 issues, the complete story. Too late for this one. If you weren't here for the first 24 hours, you wouldn't have got the Tatty Bogo Man cover where he takes over Ailsa Dark for one day only and becomes a cover girl. Too late for the original artwork, which Peter Gilmore went for that within minutes of it going up. That was nice. I have a fear box. Fearbox might look quite expensive, but you get a lot. You get the 4 comics, you get a postcard set, you get 2 prints, you get a badge, you get an original sketch card, you get a making of book, and you get an A4 pencil sketch commission. Tell me what character you want me to draw, or what person you want me to draw. If you want me to draw Iron Man, if you want me to draw Mullen Tatty Bogleman, if you want me to draw Peter Cushing, I don't know, I don't care. If you want me to draw somebody, let me know who it is, and that's the commission you'll get if you go for the Fearbox. I've got digital only. Everybody's getting this print because we've got to the 2000. As soon as we get to 4000, and we will get there, Statistical Zero has done this gorgeous retro Ailsa Dark illustration, and you're going to get this print as well. In a couple of days' time, as we get towards the 30 days, there's going to be another wee bonus stretch coming in here. It's the Bampot bonus is going to appear magically from out of nowhere just before we get to 30 days. Yeah, there you go. That's Brilliant. It. Ailsa Dark, Werewolves and Bampots. It's bloody good. I'd read it even if I didn't write it.
Can't wait for my copies.
Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, me, I'm the same with you. Can't wait for that as well. And that's it. That's your shilling. Give them a follow. Give that a look. If you can't back it, share it and let people know it's out there. Yeah. Do the same for Ailsa and for Charlie Chaplin. He needs all the help he can get, that kid. Okay. So that's that then. We've come to the end of the show. Big thank you to Russ. That's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
And I shall be back next week. In fact, I better quickly share this. That's what I'm like. I'm saying, I'll just do it here and then I remember I've got to show stuff because people will want to know this. In 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be interviewing Statistical Zero on Wullie's comic book Gold. That's one you don't want to miss. But next week, me and Stato are going to be here and we're going to be recreating a night at the cinema from like the 1970s, and we're going to be watching a not particularly nice cinema, a bit of a flea pit, and we're going to be watching Dracula in Istanbul for the first time, and you'll be getting our reactions. So come on in and watch it with us. I've already uploaded the movie to YouTube and got about 19 copyright strikes against it, so it might be a very short show, you never know. But we're going to give it a go anyway. So join us next week. It's going to be fun either way. Okay, guys. And thanks very much to everybody that's come in and joined us tonight and had a wee bit of fun amongst yourselves in the chat. Cheers, guys. We'll see you in a week. Thanks, Russ.
That's Vidania.